So Paige, I am so excited to have you with me, most of all because when I kind of look at this industry and these artists and knowing a little bit about your story, because you're pretty open with, your whole family really is.
Kind of an open book.
which we love. But you have really led your family with faith. And that is something that I admire about you so much. And you obviously have 3 amazing children that I know you're so proud of. One of them happens to be really well known.
Yes. Thank you for that. I don't know how people do anything without faith, honestly.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, all 3 of my kids have really been pretty easy to raise, especially Thomas Rhett. I will have to say he was easy, always.
Always. Mm-hmm. Now, how many parents could actually say always?
I mean, he did do stuff, but he didn't get caught till
so
later.
He's smart.
He's smart. He knew how to not get caught. But I mean, honestly, he was a hard baby.
Really?
But he couldn't really help that.
Yeah.
Yes, he could spit up and hit somebody across the room. Like, seriously. He had reflux, I'm sure, but they didn't diagnose that stuff back then.
Yeah, that
32 years ago.
Buzzword, was it?
But other than that, he was just kind of an easy kid to raise.
Is there any kind of fun story of something you got in trouble for when he was younger?
Oh, yes. He was horrible with playing games. Like, if he didn't win, he would pitch a fit, throw himself in the floor, that sort of thing. But I remember bowling one time. He was probably in 1st grade, and he didn't win because we didn't really like to let him win.
Okay.
Teach him lessons. But, and I remember just stepping over him because he was pitching such a fit in the floor.
At the bowling
alley? And that's
alley?
how I handled that. Yeah. I stepped over him and was like, bye-bye.
I'm just going to ignore that's happening right now. He's not mine.
Yeah, I don't know this child. But, so I guess we did go through those kind of normal phases.
Yeah.
But as far as just, he was pretty well behaved and, he's spoiled
Was
rotten.
he a pleaser? Was it because he didn't want to disappoint you and Rhett?
Yeah, he's a lot like me personality-wise. Not he got none of his singing ability from me. That all came from his dad. But yeah, definitely a pleaser. Mm-hmm. And still to this day, he wants to please everybody, from us to his kids to his wife to his fans. Everybody. He's just a pleaser,
which is a difficult thing, when you add into the balance of this career and trying to, But when you say that, you can also see it in his shows because he goes out every night, gives 110%.
Yes.
And I heard him, as people may know, Connor, my son, has had the opportunity. It's just been incredible for his first big tour to be with Thomas Rhett, and his dad and I say it all the time. But there's not an artist that we could have handpicked to say, go learn from him.
Yeah.
Go watch his camp and how they do things. For example, talking about how he gives 100%. He was telling Connor before the Pittsburgh show, we got to be up there, and he said, the thing about this audience is, these are the hardest working people you're going to perform for, and they may get to go to 1 or 2 shows a year, and, we're just going to go out there and give it all we got. And
that is good. He definitely has a good work ethic.
For
Always
sure.
has.
Really?
Yeah.
Even like schoolwork and that kind of thing?
Yeah, he never really struggled through school. He didn't make straight A's, but he was the one that just did good. Studied. He did study a lot, but luckily he put himself around a lot of kids that did study a lot.
Yeah.
And so he always made good grades. He... when he went to college, that was, not hard for him, which made it really hard for me when he did drop out of college.
Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of skip to there because that's so interesting. He went to Lipscomb.
He did.
So here in town, what did he go to study?
Oh, goodness. He changed it a few times. He may have started in communications, then changed it to business. He never could figure out what he wanted to do in school.
But it was not music.
No.
At that point?
No, it wasn't. Okay, so in high school and stuff, he just, did the normal things. Soccer, football, girls.
Yeah.
Friends, all of that. And then his senior year, I think it was, we all already knew he could sing and just play the guitar, but that was never like, I didn't sit around thinking this is what he's going to do with his life.
Right.
But then his senior year, he did the talent show and sang with this girl, and, of course, they won, and everybody was like, oh, my word, they're so good, And I was like, wow, they really are very good. And then when he was in college, he would pick up his guitar a lot. And that, I think, is when he always journaled and wrote stuff, but it wasn't like he was writing songs to get them published.
Right.
But then once he got into college, and then of course having his dad, who is, was a country singer and then an amazing writer, super creative, he started writing with him and stuff like that. And Rhett was able to open a lot of doors for Thomas Rhett and get him to the right people.
Right.
And then, there was that dreaded day where he came home and said, Mom, you need to sit down. And I sat down and he said, I'm going to drop out of school. He was a junior. He said, I want to drop out of school and sign this writing deal. And I was like, no, that's not what we're going to do.
It wasn't like thinking about it, maybe, what if, but it was like, here's where we are.
He would probably throw some stuff out there, seeing if I would bite. But I was not sitting around worrying about this,
right.
But then when he said it, I'm like, no, let's just, you need to finish school. He was only, 19, 20 years old?
Yeah.
Just finish school and then do it.
Yeah, it'll still be there.
It'll still be there.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I can't, I don't want to be in school. Like, this is what I want to do.
Wow.
And I tried a few more times. And then I did go and sit across from the guy who had signed him to the writing deal. And I said, how would you feel if your child was dropping out of school to go be a songwriter, And he
so
was
the day of the signing, you were still in that zone?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that day, but before that. I just wanted to kind of talk to these people. Because I really didn't know I'd lived through the country music business, but it was so different back in
and
the
that had
90s.
to be part of your hesitation.
That was my hesitation.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is not the life you want. Because he was such a good, caring, could tell already at that point he was going to be a family man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he wasn't dating Lauren through all of the college years. And then he and Lauren started dating soon after all of that. But he was dating a sweet little girl that he had known since high school. And she wasn't in for all of that. That just wasn't her thing.
Yeah.
He was always in love with Lauren, like they were best friends. And then when she came on the scene, I could tell she was cut out for what
she was going to be able to handle that.
Yeah. I could tell she could handle that all.
Yeah.
All of that. But back to sitting across from the publisher, he was kind of like, oh my goodness, I don't know that I've ever had a mom sit in here and basically get me in trouble because I'm trying to sign her son to a record deal. But he made me feel a whole lot better about things. And when we went to his first, I guess you'd call it like a showcase type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, from that moment, I was like, oh, he is really good. Of course, as a mom, you always think, oh my goodness, he's so good. But when I saw that showcase, the way he pulled in the audience, and I mean, it was just like, he was born to do what
you knew
he was
there was
doing.
no denying what this path was.
And then when, as they went through it, and he set up all these rules for on the road, like no girls on the bus, and, nobody can like touch him and this, that, and the other. Those were the kind of things that made me feel like, okay, this is going to work for them. And I feel like, I didn't really have a lot to do with the music business between the 90s and then whenever Thomas Rhett got into it. But back then it was, more like, we don't want you to appear married, like take off your wedding ring. Like it wasn't the wholesome, family-oriented, God-loving thing that it is now. Yeah. And I feel like, maybe it's just me talking, but I feel like Thomas Rhett has had a lot to do with that.
I was just about to say that. I feel like he is one of a very small handful of artists, and maybe the biggest one when you kind of put him in that category, that really has made it, I don't know, is it cool to live your faith and family and for your family to be such a big part of the story. Yeah. And it has worked. Yeah. People love him more.
And that has a lot to do with Lauren too.
For sure.
Because, not everybody could just get out there and stand strong in their faith like she has, And I truly believe God prepared them for each other, which that's what he does. But, I can see it through the good guy that Lauren dated and the really good girl that Thomas Rhett dated that kind of brought them together when it was time for them to be brought together.
That's really neat. Yeah. I love that. So when we talk about your hesitancy, when TR was going to take this step and really go, and you saw him, the guitar in his hand a little bit more, you saw him playing out probably some here in town. Yeah. We need to go back to why you probably were hesitant. So you married your high school sweetheart part, but not before.
Right. Yes.
You actually.
So Rhett and I dated in high school. We're from Valdosta, Georgia. And then we both ended up going to the University of Georgia. And then that summer, after our freshman year, 19 years old, I got pregnant, and then we got married, and our lives just kind of, took a completely different path.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was wanting to major in international business and travel the world, and really hadn't thought about marriage and kids and all that kind of stuff.
You had big plans for yourself.
Yeah, I had big plans for myself. And then all of a sudden, here I am in Valdosta, Georgia, married with, a baby. Mm-hmm. Well, then Rhett, I assumed we would stay in Valdosta, which is where our families lived. And he came home one day and said he wanted to go audition for this country music thing. It was kind of like Opryland in San Antonio, Texas, and we would have to move. And I'm thinking, okay, sure, go ahead. I mean, I knew he could sing. He was very talented.
That would actually happen.
No, I didn't think anything like that would actually go
when
down.
When you were pregnant, you got married, did you think you were marrying a musician, or you thought he was going to go, didn't you think he was going to go run the family business or something?
I did. That's what he was going to do, was work for his dad. His dad owned oil and gas company.
So you definitely didn't know what you were getting into.
No, I had no idea what I was getting into. Now, I always knew Rhett loved to sing and play his guitar. He was very talented.
Right.
But I really didn't see that coming until he wanted to audition for this, country show.
Texas Fiesta, Texas. Okay.
Yeah, Thomas Rhett used to call it BS Texas. Just being a toddler, that's how it came out.
I love it.
And I was like, yes, this is BS.
That's awesome.
But so we moved to San Antonio, Texas. I did not want to go. I remember crying, and my dad was like, because at one point I was like, yeah, you go. You go do that, and I'll just stay right here with my support system because I have a child that I don't know what I'm doing with. My dad was like, you have to go. This is your husband. You have to go. Yeah. So my mom, Rhett, and me got in the car, 2 different cars, I feel like, and took off, and I cried all the way to San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, my goodness.
And then, honestly, it was the best thing for me because that's when I grew up. That's when me and Thomas Rhett were bonded, of course, before then, but it was me. Mm-hmm. I was his mom, and I didn't have help from my mom or Rhett's mom. And so it's when I grew up. And then from there, we went home for about 3 weeks to Valdosta, stayed with our parents, and then moved on to Nashville. And by the time we did that, I was totally fine, being away from home and all that kind of stuff.
So once you were living in Nashville, was Rhett on the road all the time? Did you kind of feel like a single mom at that point?
Not yet, but he came back. He did the show at Opryland for maybe 8 months. I don't know how long their seasons are. And then he got offered 3 record deals,
wow.
Bam, bam, bam. And I was pregnant with Casey by this point. And when she was maybe 3 weeks old, and I'm probably getting all of my timeline wrong, he left and went on the road with Reba McEntire for what seemed like forever. And that's when I started feeling, kind of like a single mom. I mean, he would be, because, he didn't have a plane where he could fly in and fly out.
Yeah.
He wasn't there in his career yet, but
right.
It was a lot of, he would be gone for 3 weeks and, just kind of felt like I was doing it myself.
Yeah. So you guys stayed married till Thomas was what, 9?
Oh goodness. He was probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 when we split up. And then, we tried to make it work for about 3 or 4 years before we finally got divorced.
Yeah. But you saw how much Rhett was on the road and away from his family, and that's part of what it takes to make this work.
Yes.
And was that the type of conversations you were having with TR when he was, saying, Mom, I'm going to go do this?
Mm-hmm. Right. You lived how hard this is. Mm-hmm. We would schedule a birthday party, and then something would come up in the music business, and Rhett wouldn't be able to be there. And he tried his best, but when people are pulling you in a million different directions, and you know how that is, I'm sure, with Connor.
Yeah.
You got to go. You got to do it. And so I just felt like Thomas Rhett's too much of a family man to miss the soccer games and the football games and the gymnastics and, whatever it may be that his kids are doing.
Right.
So, yes, those were my concerns. I wanted him to just sell insurance and have the normal life and be able to go to church on Sunday and Wednesday and be with his family.
So when you look back at it now and all of those concerns that you had, and now you see this family unit and how they have been able to, I always hate the word balance because I don't think any of us would say that we are 50% family and 50, family's always more, or it certainly should be. But the balance that he has found in, he is at church on Sundays.
Yeah.
When he's in town and can be. He is at the soccer games, the dance recitals, like those kind of things. So what do you see in him now as a parent that I'm sure makes you so proud?
Oh, I'm so proud of what they have built. And I'm really glad that Lauren has her thing too with Love One and writing a book. And I mean, she's very accomplished in her. I mean, she has a nursing degree.
Right.
She could have done all of that too, but she never did really have to, so she didn't. And she wanted to take that first year of their marriage and travel with him, and that's kind of when she would have started her nursing career.
Right.
But, they have just built, the dream life, what everybody would consider. But, they're just as normal as can be.
Right.
Their kids it is chaos 24/7 over there. And, they're just in it, having the same struggles that, everybody else has when they're raising their kids.
Right.
But the way they've done it is just, it amazes me. Now, he had to pay his dues. There was lots of Sundays where he wasn't at church and was on the road. And, he would have to, just pull out his Bible and have his own church service with himself, with some of the guys in the band. But the way that they've done it and built it to what it is, it's very admirable.
So let's go back to, tell me a little bit about, people that I'm sure are listening. Everyone is always so fascinated with TR and Lauren and their love story. And it is really kind of a unique story. So your families went to church together when the kids were not even in middle school yet, right?
So they went to the same Christian private school, Good Pasture. So they've known each other since they were in probably first grade, because Thomas Rhett did go to kindergarten somewhere else, and then he started at Good Pasture. Which is a funny story in itself. The only reason I ended up at Good Pasture was because when he was in kindergarten, it was a great school, but I knew nothing about Nashville, really knew nothing about school because I was maybe 23 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
But he was in kindergarten. He had this amazing kindergarten teacher that was in a wheelchair. I can't even remember her name, but she was so sweet. But he got lice. And I thought, oh, my word. He cannot, knowing now, I mean, I've been a teacher for a long time, and I know that lice is very common everywhere. But back then, I knew nothing about lice.
Right.
But when I came home, Rhett was on the road, and I called him, and I said, we are going to a private school. He was like, do whatever you got to do.
There's no lice in a private school. We're going there.
Oh, yeah. It is so funny thinking about that now. But yes, that's why we went to Good Pasture.
Oh, that's
Sorry, I got
awesome.
off track.
That's a great story, though.
But yeah, that's why. And I went to Madison Church of Christ, and a lot of the kids did go to Good Pasture.
Okay.
So that was another reason. And then anyway, they knew each other since first grade, but we didn't really hang out with like Lauren's parents back then. But I guess fast forward to maybe they were in 9th grade and they were dating. And I don't know if you've ever met Lauren's mom, Lisa.
I have not met Lisa.
She is the best person. Like, she is definitely one of my very best friends. And we just immediately bonded. And at church, we would see each other and just kind of chat and talk. And one night, I was at home with Tyler. I think he was sick. And Tim, my husband, had taken them to the football game. And after the football game, they went to like Chili's or something. And Lisa, Lauren's mom, was like, I've got a great idea. We should go on a cruise. And Tim was like, okay. And he came home and told me we were going on a cruise with them. And I'm thinking, okay.
Sure.
Sounds like a blast to me. Like, you have never brought up, let's go on a cruise. So we're going. So we go on this cruise, take our kids out of school in January, which I never did things like that. I don't even know why I did it. But they were all doing pretty good in school. And we had the best time with them. And from then, we just kind of started traveling together.
And you guys still vacation together to this day, which is what I love.
Yes, we do. But yeah, it was that. And Thomas Rhett and Lauren dated for a little bit, and then they broke up and didn't date again until during college. But she tortured him, not meaning to. He let her. So, but we would always be like, Thomas Rhett, she just doesn't She just doesn't like you like that. She wants to be your friend, because she was dating other people, and then she started dating a really nice guy, and then he started dating a really nice girl, and they dated the rest of high school and into college.
Did you think they were going to end up back together?
Well,
Was
me
there
and
a little
Lisa would
something?
always talk about it.
Okay.
I would always say he mentally compared everybody that he dated to Lauren.
Right.
You know, and they were best friends through it all. Everybody could see it except Lauren. Like, she really didn't, you know, she just thought they were friends.
Yeah,
she didn't really know. But she did know that she didn't feel that it was right for her to be with her boyfriend. So it kind of came down to a point in their relationship where it was like, hey, are we going to get married? What are we going to do? And that was a hard breakup for them, because he was like her best friend.
And they were in college at that point,
They were in college,
right? Yeah.
yep. She was maybe still had to finish up one more year or something like that. And then Thomas Rhett dropped out. But they broke up, and then so Thomas Rhett and Lauren started hanging out even more because they weren't dating anyone else.
Right.
And he had talked to Steve, Lauren's dad, and he was like, I just love her. And Steve was like, you have to tell her. Like, if you don't tell her, I'm going to tell her. And we were encouraging him, just tell her, just see how she feels, you know. And then I think she talks about this in her book, but one night Lauren is very competitive, and like, you don't dare her to do something because she will do it. And he said something like, I dare you to kiss me. And they did, and fireworks.
Yeah.
And from that
Her
moment.
Her book is so good. That story is in there. It's so good. And the other thing I would tell our listeners to listen to is the Live and Love podcast. She does such a great job with it. And there's a whole episode with Paige that is so good. And you just get to hear a lot of really good stories on that. So definitely go listen to the Live and Love podcast as well. And in that podcast, Lauren, she talks so sweetly about you and your role as mother-in-law, which I'm sure is a tough one. I'm not there yet, but it's one of those I'm like, oh my goodness. She called you kind of a safe place for them. You're like a rock for her to lean on. She can go to you for advice. And it just sounds like you have really found a way to be there, to be involved. I mean, I think you're at the house a whole lot when she needs the extra hands, but you never cross a line of going too far.
Yeah. And it is, I would say, any advice for someone out there who has their first son get married, it is hard. But if you can just get through that first year of, Christmas and birthdays and all those things, and let them kind of figure out what they want to do without losing your mind and like starting to scream at people, that is very helpful. But it's like, Thomas Rhett and I have always been very close. And so I was his person. And then when they got married, she was his person. And it took me a minute to wrap my brain around that. Yeah. But it's God's plan.
Right.
I was jealous. I mean,
doesn't make it easier, does it?
No, it doesn't make it easier.
Plan.
But, when he would, like, she would know everything that was going on instead of me. And it was hard, but I knew that's how it was supposed to be. So I would my husband would hear all about it.
Yeah. Well, it's hard when you become not the first phone call. Because you've always been the person that they want to tell everything to. And, even now, even with buddies or whatever, it'll be like, you told them before you told me. I've always been the person that you want to share the good news or even the tough stuff with.
And then when you have one, that when they get married, they then take off and go on the road. So we would go, long times without talking to each other. And it broke my heart. But Lauren was she was a safe place for me too, because I didn't always tell her every time I was upset or angry or whatever, what I was feeling. But if I wanted to, I did, and I could have.
But at one point, you kind of had to have a sit down with Thomas Rhett and
I did.
Be, kind of vulnerable about, where is my time?
Yeah. And I had to do it in his closet because he was in there packing. But I went over to his house. I mean, it took lots of, because I didn't want to add one more thing to his plate.
Right.
Because, the more Connor gets into this, you'll realize that, because people pull in all the directions.
Right.
And I didn't want to add one more thing for him to worry about to his plate. But I also knew that if I didn't have a conversation with him, I was going to continue to have bad, sad feelings. And it was going to mess up our relationship. So I tracked him down in his closet and I said, hey, can we just talk? And he was like, yes. And I said, I feel last. I just feel, and I'll get choked up talking about it, but I just feel last.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mom, you're the one I didn't worry about. So I thought you were fine. So
Which
really,
is such a gift to give your child to where, I'm the one thing that I'm right here loving you through it all no matter what. But then at the end of the day, we want our time.
Yes. And honestly, COVID, I know it's been terrible and horrible for so many people, but for us, it brought him home, and he was home. And the first few weeks, we were kind of quarantined because everybody's trying to figure out what was going on. So we weren't with them. And Lennon had just been born, so we didn't get to see him a lot during those first 6 weeks. But then after that, Lauren's like, I don't care. Just come over.
Just come on.
Just come on. So, but having him home so much, it made us just get used to it. So now that he's gone again, we're like, but at least it's just Thursday through Saturday.
What do you do now with, 4 kids on the road, so much? What do you do now as TR's mom? And you talk about how connected you guys are, but to be intentional about making sure that your relationship with him, just like in a marriage or something, but that it's healthy and that you guys can get some time together.
Well, the best thing to do is just be over there a lot. Yes, it's chaos. There's 4 kids. One of them wants to read a book. One of them wants to go swing. One of them wants to draw. So you're getting words in with a lot of chaos and commotion going on. But like when we go to the beach, we go to the beach every summer, all of us together, like Lauren's family and my family.
And sometimes Rhett, right?
That is usually ski trips. Now, they were here this last summer, but they did stay at the other house because they've gotten a different house now, and we were on top of each other. Like me and Tim, my husband, and Steve and Lisa, Lauren's parents, shared a room.
Well, oh, my goodness. And I didn't want to interrupt that story, but it's so unique. Yes. And I just think it says a whole lot about you that you're like, you know what?
Yes.
We've moved on. And what matters is being together and having this healthy family that interacts in a healthy way.
Yeah. And Rhett married an amazing girl. She's so sweet. And they have the cutest baby ever. And their little boy is like a month older than Lennon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's Uncle
Lennon
and
is
Dad.
his aunt. Yeah, so
Isn't that funny?
That's funny, and they'll be in school together.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's so. I'm not going to say there weren't hard times, and it was kind of hard to get to where we are now. But we both always wanted the best for our kids, and always wanted to be able to be together, be in the same rooms together, and not have to celebrate 14 different houses.
Right.
It just makes life easier. For them, which makes life easier for us.
In the early days where, and I know the situations were very different, and even the music industry was very different in the early 90s and then now, but do you think that your experience helped Lauren at all to kind of have some perspective on either what this was going to be like?
I think it does. I think when she says I'm a safe place, that's probably got a lot to do with it, because I'm probably the only other person in her family. Well, definitely. That was married to, somebody that was in the music business. So, where my story is way different from her story, I definitely, had some words for her along the way, which, is probably where all the rules came from that he came up with, which,
you may or may not have helped her write those rules out.
Take note, 1 through 10. But no girls on the bus being the main one.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, she, she's always kind of asked my advice on stuff, which makes you feel good.
Yeah.
As them, because all we want to do is just help.
I know.
Whether they need us or not, because they don't need us for money. They don't, but they do come to us and ask us for help, and we appreciate that. As
I
moms.
love that. Do you ever have all 4 girls by yourself?
No, I don't think I could do it.
Really?
I have, last week I went over Tyler's little girlfriend, my 17-year-old's girlfriend, babysits for them a good bit.
Oh, okay.
And it was all 4 girls, and she usually will get a friend, but she couldn't find one, so I went over and helped her. And it's all hands on deck.
Oh, I bet.
I may have had them just for a little bit, but never overnight or anything, all of them. It's usually 2 and 2. or I think I've done 3 of them, but I've never done all 4.
Okay, so because it's lyrics in a song, okay, I remember the day I told my parents you were going to have a grandkid from Uganda.
Yes, that's right.
Tell me your perspective of that day.
Oh, my word. So excited. Like, I always wanted to adopt, but never, all the things. I had to work. I had a little one. We didn't have the money, all the things that go into it. Yeah. So I never really walked around and vocalized that, that I wanted to adopt. But in my head, it was like, oh, I would like to adopt.
Right.
So when they did it, it was kind of like, oh, good. Finally, somebody. And then to hear Lauren's, as how that all came to be and how Thomas Rhett just jumped on board immediately. We were super excited. Yeah. Didn't know what to expect because I don't come from a family that has adopted anyone. Right. I didn't really have friends that had adopted children. So I didn't really know what to expect. So I did talk to Suzanne a good bit about it.
Suzanne Marinick.
Just kind of what to expect and all the things that were going along with it. And then as they were trying to get Willa Gray, and it was so hard, and they were in Africa, and he would have to come back and go do a show, and she would stay over there, and she's pregnant, and then Lisa and Steve went over there to help bring her home. It was just all so surreal.
Oh, I'm sure.
But honestly, from the day we met her, it was like she was always meant to be there.
She's supposed to be
there was
in your
never
family.
Any...
I love
her
that.
being shy and not want,
there was no transition really.
No, none.
So they were in the process of adopting Willa Gray, and then she finds out she's pregnant. Do you remember getting that news?
Oh yes, it was Christmas, and we all at the farm is where you were talking about. Connor had gone hunting. We were all over there for Christmas, and Lauren loves giving gifts. Like, she gets so excited when she gives gifts. So we all get this same. I think it was in a box. So we all open our box, and it's a picture frame, and it's a picture of Willa Gray. Of course, I didn't have my glasses on, so I couldn't really see what it was, and we're all going, what is it? What is it? Well, it's Willa Gray with a little shirt that says baby sister. And so somebody picked up on it. They're like, it says baby sister. And so we all look at Lauren, we're like, you're pregnant. She's like, yes.
So that's how she told y'all.
Yes, okay. That's how she told us.
I love that. That's so neat.
And then, so we only had Willa Gray for, she got there in May, same day that Casey graduated from college. And then AJ was born in August. So we only had, 2 months for her to be the center of attention. Willa Gray honestly could probably babysit all of them at once.
Really? She can mother them.
She can mother them.
I love that. Tell me about some of the fun mom moments. I know you looked so gorgeous at the CMAs this year.
Thank you.
And some of the fun things you've gotten to do like that.
Yes.
What did you love?
That was so fun because, as the mom, I did go, me and Tim went 1 year. I think, I can't even remember, but he didn't win anything. And then we just started staying at home because honestly, it's easier to watch the show at home on your couch.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, it's really not. The show's better.
And it's such a long night. And when you're there, I mean, it's, you have to be on because of cameras and all that kind of stuff.
Had you done the red carpet thing with him before?
On the sidelines.
Okay.
Like Lauren was
Getting
there,
to watch
so I was
it.
kind of more just... back there with his manager as Lauren was experiencing it. So no, I had never really done where they were sticking the microphone in my face. And then that was so cool of Lauren because she's the one that thought of it. Boys don't think of things like that typically, especially Thomas Rhett. But he's just trying to get through the day.
Exactly.
But she texted me and she was like, would you want to go to the CMAs with Thomas Rhett? And this was really honestly 3 days before.
Oh, you didn't have a whole lot of...
No, and I was like, well, I have a dress. I have a dress that I wore to Casey's wedding. I could just wear that. I mean, I wasn't really, I was like, yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Because she was hugely pregnant and due any day. And she was like, the last thing I want to do is put on any kind of dress.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
So it was so fun. I met up with his sweet stylist, who I love so much. And she met me at the showroom and we tried on a few dresses, found one. Rented it. She brought jewelry. She brought shoes. She even brought Spanx.
That's a good woman right there.
Yeah. And I had my hair and makeup done, and it was so fun.
That's fun. You looked so beautiful. That's really neat. Do you have a favorite Thomas Rhett song, or is that one of those questions? You hate to ask an artist that.
I know.
Is there?
Well, yes, but I still love Vacation. That song
so funny?
pumps me up. Yes.
I'm the same way. As much as as many songs as he had that have these incredible lyrics, that you can identify all this. When Vacation, especially live, Live and T-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Are so fun.
Yes.
Live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Crash and Burn. I mean, I love a lot of, of course, Die Happy Man, I love on all this new album. I love all of them.
Yeah.
But Vacation would be.
Such a mom. I love all of them.
Everyone
is so good.
Yes. I don't always know exactly what's going on, because I listen mostly to Christian radio. Sorry, Thomas Rhett. So I'll ask him before I do events. I'm like, okay, what's the song out now? Is it,
Try to keep up. I love that about you, though. That's so awesome. And at the end of the day, you're still parenting a teenager.
Yes.
You've got a junior in high school.
Yes. My daughter's having a baby any
that's right.
day in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
so,
any day.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot to
There's a
juggle
lot.
other than,
Yes.
Thomas Rhett is not I'm sure there are days when Connor wishes I had 4 little ones running around at home to where there wasn't as much, both my boys would say that, wasn't quite as much focus on the two of them, so.
Yeah, they tell me what I need to know. And, I'm always super excited for him. And, it's kind of like, how many number ones have you had now? And my mom will text me and be like, did you know Thomas Rhett's on? Like, we learn on Instagram when he's going to be on.
Exactly.
Because funny. We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, when we're just hanging out and stuff, we don't.
Which is probably how it should be.
Like, sometimes he'll play a song and be like, do y'all like this? He's always listening to songs.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, do y'all like this? Y'all like, but
yeah.
we don't sit around just dwelling on the fact that he's.
And that's not what he needs when he's home.
Right.
I mean, he
don't want
probably
that.
just needs as much normalcy as possible. When you look back at kind of all these steps in his career, and it may not be music related, but what do you think of when you just think of your proudest moment? Like, what are you most proud of him for?
Oh, my word. When I was the most proud was we did go to this CMA thing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to say. The Artist of the Year dinner.
Yes.
Yeah. Share that with us.
He was it Kane Brown's drummer?
Yes.
Had passed away. Mm-hmm. And Thomas Rhett went up there to, I don't even know if he was accepting his award or all I can remember is that he prayed on TV.
Yeah.
And
he
I remember
literally said,
thinking,
can we take a minute
yes.
just to pray? I was watching that live and just wow.
Yeah, and I am fighting back the ugly cry tears, just thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm so proud of him for praying, but is he going to get in trouble? All these things are going through my head, but I'm just bawling. And, I think they caught that on camera, which is a little, you can't help it though. But that was probably my proudest mom moment and I was like, what made you do that afterward? And he was like, well, I went to the bathroom and I was standing there peeing and I thought, I'm going to pray. And I was like, okay. And then when Reba came out and she was like, y'all better not cut that. They're not going to cut it if Reba says
right.
Don't cut
Reba
it.
said it. Yeah. Yeah. I remember, that too. And I was like, go Reba. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's definitely my proudest.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm so happy for you. And it's, one of those things when we're at such an early stage of this journey, but just like Connor is, kind of learning from Thomas Rhett about how to be a good leader and, how to treat people and just so much more than the life stuff. I'll share this story because you and I were talking about this earlier, but the first time Connor got to write with Thomas Rhett, and I really think that's when they bonded, and he was so excited to get to go. It was kind of a last minute thing. He got a text from his producer, Zach Crowell, that, another writer had dropped. Did he want to come join him and Thomas Rhett? Thomas Rhett was going to order everybody dinner, the three guys that were going to get together because they were going to write at night, which is a little bit unusual. And so he texted Connor, and Connor's like, look at this. Thomas Rhett just texted me and asked me what I wanted for dinner, which was great. But they just spent, the next day I'm like, so did you guys write a song? And he's like, we started one and kind of, messed around with it. He goes, but Mom, we just talked about life, just about how to really stay true to yourself in this business, how important the people that you surround yourself with are, just so many of the things that matter way beyond the music. And all of that advice came from Thomas Rhett. And you've just raised an incredible son. And our family is so thankful for him. And for my boys to get to be out on the road with him is really, really special, especially for a first tour, because you're learning everything.
Yeah,
so.
That's great. I can really see Thomas Rhett, when this is all said and done, I think he'll always write. But he feels such a calling to basically mentor, young kids, whether it be Tyler and his friends or Connor or whatever. I think he and Lauren too. They both have a gift when it comes to talking to people and, basically preaching,
Yeah.
I mean,
Really
I have heard him before and been
into
like,
other people.
add preacher to your list of accomplishments.
Well, at the Love One event last year, Lauren.
Oh, she can bring it.
Okay, girl.
Yes.
This is awesome.
I know.
So,
Yeah,
so
they're good.
Well, thank you so much. I have loved talking to you, and I'm glad that this is just the beginning of what I know is going to be a fun friendship. We got to figure out what show we're going to go to together before this tour is over.
Thank you for having me. It's so much fun.